And we are now live.
Oh, good. Well, you know, I just realized I've got the air conditioner running.
Oh.
Why don't you intro and I'll mute my mic and
Okay.
I'll go turn that thing on.
Okay. Good evening or afternoon, wherever you may be. This is part 2 of Terry's tutorial on Voicemeeter, CamStudio, OBS, and some other goodies that he found to go with Voicemeeter last night. We made some interesting discoveries after we did last night's video that really opens the door to a lot of new possibilities. Terry will be with us as soon as he gets his air conditioning turned off. In the meantime, Michael Daniels has asked a question. He's busy with his regular job. It interferes with him attending Hangout. But he's asked a question. He says, Terry, based on our findings last night, can I isolate sound from different tabs? For example, I don't want message sounds coming through. Or would I just mute system sound during the downtime so folks don't hear those? And now there's Terry back, and I will now turn it over to him and let him handle it.
Yeah. No, that can't be done. It's not a system sound. If it's in a browser tab, if it's something coming from a browser tab, all browser tabs are created equally as far as their sound output. There's no individualized sound control, except for the fact that some pages have playback buttons on them that you can start and stop, and even have volume controls if you've got a flash player, for instance. So maybe I'm speaking too soon. I mean, there are some incidents where you can go and load up a flash player, and it'll have a you'll have its own thing. Here, in fact, I'll show you a case in point. Here we go. Let's go with this. This is my, I just had this all open. Like I say, I went to HBR1.com, and they have their music going. Well, see, they have a flash player, and that comes up, and I don't know. And it's got a control. Oh, you can't see my controller. I should have gone full screen. Let's see. Share full screen instead. Here we go. Okay, so there's HBR1. It's a music radio programs. They got 3 programs that they run, and they have a flash player and a Java player, and so it's got a volume control, a play button. So in that case, yeah, in a sense, I've got a tab that has its own volume control, but not really. It's really an app that's built from the tab that's got its own volume control. Also, we found these last night. We found these sound effects things. What was it? Effects something. Sound. What was it? Sound.
I'm trying to think of what it was. Was it SoundCloud?
No, it's more like Sound Bridge or Sound Bible. There it is. Sound Bible.
Yeah, Sound Bible. That was it.
And you see, they come with a whole bunch of push buttons. So there you go. So there's no individual volume control for this, but you have individual control over the buttons, and that you can play it, and attribute non-controversial. Oh, I have to give an attribution. That sound of the gong you heard came from soundbible.com. So anyway, attribution means you got to give somebody, whoever it is that made the sound, you got to give them credit.
Yeah.
Let's see what metal gong sound is. Okay, attribution. Oh, it's Diana KC made that one. And so that's a kind of common, what do they call it? Creative Commons, copyright. where you can say that it's free to use with attribution, meaning Diana KC wants to get credit for it.
And if they create it, they should. I mean,
yeah, I say so. That's what I say. Some people do it where they don't need attribution; they put it directly into public domain. Okay, and these guys have the attribution, but for non-commercial use, they want you to pay if you use it for commercial use. So, so you know, if you stick with just your public domain. Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I shouldn't have picked that one. So anyway, as you can see, though, you have quite a few really cool sounds, and these are just the new ones that they just got in. There's, they got all kinds of stuff in here, and it's just one of these places that's got that kind of stuff. All right. So, sound effects city over here, and oh, of course that's public domain. Yeah. All right. To bed. Yeah. Here we go. Sorry about that, folks. My red stag was roaring again. Okay, 200 pages of these. So I think you can find some sound effects in here that you'll be able to use. And like I say, if you're using them on your website, then it's cool. And I think personal use only would include something like what we're doing, just a little show that's not making money. Oh yeah, lightsabers. Yeah, lightsabers. Oh boy. All right, so. But again, that's just a push button. HBR1, however, gives you volume control. But other than that, like if I'm on a page that's got notifications coming in, I'd have to look at that page's permissions and notification settings to see if I can turn off the audio notifications. Like if it's something to do with Google Plus, I know they've got massive amounts of settings that you can do for their notifications and all that kind of stuff. You just have to dive deep into the settings in the background. You click your picture over here and view profile or account, one of those, or privacy probably, and set up your settings. Okay. So
yeah, because I know I was playing with my settings last night, and I saw something somewhere, but I forget where I found I was on. There are so many different places you can set settings in Google, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, and in YouTube, too.
Yeah, I didn't even get over on that side.
Yeah. I went over to Voicemeeter and went to the audio apps link, which is down here at the very bottom. You click on Hi-Fi cable and ASIO bridge, and it takes you to this page, audio apps. You can see that. And let me go ahead and I'll stop sharing and share again. Just that page. There it is. Okay, that should be filling the screen now. And I set my screen to 1280 by 720, so it should be an optimum picture. So this has got a couple of these virtual audio cables, and they turn out to be the secret sauce for getting, for doing what we just did, where I can hear Andrew speaking, and I can hear the Hangout on air. This is what Michael and I discovered last night, is how to bring in the Hangout on air so it doesn't get mixed in with, back into the stream when I'm outputting again to the broadcast. And yet be able to play my system sounds through the virtual input. And so any system sounds I bring in, like the video, YouTube's, the sounds from HVR1, any system sounds get sent out. But what secret was having this virtual cable that acts like just like I had a patch cord inside my computer. It allows me to take and play back the Hangout and send it to Oh, here. See, this cable A, and I'm sending it just to my monitoring, so it's not being sent back out again. All right, so, oh, you can't see that. Again, well, let's finish with this page as long as rather than switching.
Okay.
So this has got two different cables. It's got a VB cable, which I've already got one now. I got two installed. Yeah, got this one VB cable and the hi-fi cable. It's a bit perfect virtual audio cable. It's very fussy. You have to have those settings for the sample rate and the bit depth. 16-bit, 44.1 sample rate. You got to have that set correctly so all of your devices are set the same. Otherwise, it spazzes big time. Well, you download the VB cable driver, and that puts in this extra cable. Then you go further down, and you got the hi-fi cable. And this is only going to be of interest to people that are bringing in an ASIO type of a device, like I have the Focusrite Scarlett USB interface to bring my mixer into the computer as a digital signal. I don't, rather than using the line in, because the line in on most computers is very noisy. I mean, you plug something in and you can hear all the computer operations going on inside if you select it as an input. You can hear all this little Yep, that's it. And that is exactly what it sounds like. I actually rehearsed those noises, listening very carefully to the line in. So that's you don't want that noise in the background of your signal if you're trying to record a music show. And so I went out and bought the $150 bargain Focusrite 2-in, 2-out device, 2i2 they call it by Focusrite, Scarlett. And they have bigger ones. They have 8 in, 8 out, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't need that. Still, it uses this ASIO input, which now I'm going to forget what it stands for, but who cares? It's an acronym. The IO stands for input output. I think it's something advanced. I think that's advanced serial input output. I believe that's what ASIO stands for. And so it allows me to bring in my devices set to the correct settings and everything, up to 8 channels, and bring them right into a show. So I'd be able to play my keyboard setup, for instance, directly into the show with no latency at all. I'd be able to, when I hit the key, in other words, latency is the amount of delay, and so I'd be able to hit the key and I'd hear my sound right away as soon as I hit the key, and so would the audience. It wouldn't be any delay. Whereas if I use these other systems, I'm hearing a little bit of a delay. And let me tell you, it's almost impossible to play the keyboards where you're hearing that little bit of a delay. It's one of the reasons I stopped playing church organs, because you're several feet away from the pipes, and there's always a delay. The bigger the church, the more of a delay. Yeah. So it drives you crazy. You push the key, and it's like half a second later you hear the sound. And it makes you really just have to tune out the sound of your own playing, because if you listen to it, you start playing slower, trying to be catch up to the sound you're hearing, and it's really impossible. Anyway, so you got, like, here's a Focusrite they show here. You bring that in and let you do that fancy stuff. So I'll do another show on doing that later on, and setting all that up. And but I did just install it, so now at least I have it in place. So there you go. But the virtual audio cable is what has made this all possible for the settings. And let me show you. Let me make sure I even have my settings right. Yes, it's still that way. Okay, so I'm going to share my whole screen. And if I click on the little gear wheel, you'll see I got my my webcam, and I have Voicemeeter's output as my microphone. That's the virtual output from the Voicemeeter device, from this thing. So it's the B, the slider, the B slider. And so anything I send to the B, right now it's just my mic and it's my system sounds going to the B, because this virtual input is my system sounds. The same thing as stereo mix for people that are used to that. But it's much better because you have a slider and I can isolate my monitoring, so I don't have to monitor my mic through my headphones and hear that delay. But I can monitor one thing that I don't send. Notice anything in A is only being monitored through my headphones, not being sent to the broadcast. B is out to the broadcast in this case. So so here I have my Voicemeeter output as my microphone. So it's like a sort of like those virtual cameras in Manycam is being used for the webcam, and it's just taking everything that's output from Manycam and, you know, treating it as if it's a webcam. And Manycam lets you mix several cameras and screens and everything together onto one screen. Well, similarly, Voicemeeter is letting me mix many audio sources together and sending them out as one microphone. Okay, and then for my speakers, for my listening to the show, I sent that to the cable A input, which is that virtual cable, and that doesn't go to the system audio. Instead, I route that through here. I bring that in right here, and I only send it to my headphones to the A output, which I selected right here, Logitech H555 headset. So that's the secret that made it possible so I could hear. Oops, didn't mean to do that. That's the secret that made it possible for me to be able to hear the HOA without it bleeding into the stream. If I tried to use the virtual input and listen to it as system sounds, then I wouldn't be able to bring other systems. I wouldn't be able to make this live because I'd have a loop going on where Andrew said something, it would come through here and go back out again to the stream and create an echo. And so instead I bring it in here, so all I do is send the Hangout to my headphones. And I send all my system sounds, anything else, out the B to the show. So you get that? I hope that's kind of clear. A is for auditing, as Michael said. Auditing or monitoring. A is for auditing, B is for broadcasting. Okay?
That's easy to remember.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, we solved a lot of problems last night after the show, didn't we? We got in there and really dug in.
Yeah, really. We were there, what, another hour?
2. Yeah, we didn't get out here till after midnight.
Oh, that's right.
I think it was well after midnight.
Yeah, it was, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm. And the show ended before 10.
Okay, I don't know whether you saw it. Scott just posted. He said, just to be clear, on Voicemeeter, first slider is out to the headset. Second slider is program out, right?
At the end here, yeah. The first slider here is out to the headset or speakers or whatever you're using to audit. Okay, and you can audit to 2 audit points. A headset 1 and a headset 2. You can have a second headset plugged in and send it to that headset also. That allows 2 people to be plugged in with their USB headsets, or one with a USB and one with line out. Okay.
Okay.
And or you can send it to speakers in another room, so people can be listening to what you're doing. Like, say you were doing a podcast and you actually had an audience, you'd be able to send the monitor to both the audience and to yourself.
Okay.
So in this case, they'd be hearing. But you see, I'm not monitoring my headset because of that little bit of delay.
Yeah.
You usually don't need to be monitoring your own headset. If you're actually in the room talking, and even if the other person's there with the headset on, they can hear you talk. You're next to them. They don't need to be hearing you over the headset. But the audience out there and the rest of the world at the broadcast does need to hear it. So you have it set to go to the broadcast but not be audited. If you use that virtual audio cable, or to an extent, if I used if it was available, the KS is almost ASIO in terms of its speed. But you'll notice that the headset isn't set up for that. Oh, but look at that. I'm going to hi-fi audio cable input output. Well, that's interesting. I've got my ASIO output coming in here. I wonder which mic you're hearing. Yeah, you're hearing this mic.
Yeah, I heard that it sounded like a woodpecker. Pick, 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 pick.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I see. Okay, well, yeah, there's still a little bit of delay, even though it's coming through that cable, and but that's not really set up as that way. But that's interesting. I had the wrong thing hooked up, and it still was receiving it. I forgot when I added these other things that I had the list shifted, and since it goes by what number in the list things appear in, if you add these other cables, it adds stuff to the list, and the list shifts, and you gotta change. Okay, there we go. Now my mic's back. So this is the normal setup when you got your mic set up. I have no idea, to tell you the truth, how that even worked a second ago, having the cable input instead.
That is so weird about that list shifting, but your check mark doesn't shift with it. That's just...
Yeah, that was actually just a fluke because I didn't change it before. It was actually still using the mic input, even though it was showing the cable input. It wasn't actually using the cable input. Well, just before the show, I had installed the other two cables to see, so I could mess around with them. And if somebody came on, I was going to go ahead and try to get the ASIO to work. But you can do that later on. And, yeah, I'm curious. I got to read the manual on how to get that ASIO thing working, and then I'll maybe make a recording talking about that or something. But I think we definitely have a hi-fi show in the works coming up. A show that just talks about the hi-fi uses of this tool. If you did nothing but what we have the setup right now, and anybody should just take a screenshot of what I'm showing them right now of this screen, and because this is the setup that you can. This is the ultimate setup for somebody doing HOAs.
Okay.
Have your headset going out, but not be audited, and be auditing the HOA, and have all your system sounds going out to the broadcast and be audited. And it's the ultimate setup. And this thing's got some neat features, like we were messing around. You can see you can change the treble and make it bassier. You can add an echo effect. Hello, everybody. Ha 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 ha. And you can make it mono and add different colors and brightness and all this stuff to it. And if you get up here, you can double click and it returns to standard. Plus, I have my audibility. I have a slight amount of compression on my mic right now. Hope that sounds good. And again, you double click and it turns that off. So now it's just normal, there's no compression or anything. But that's audibility. That's if you're having to talk over some noise, or, well, if you turn it way up, it acts like a gate apparently, where it shunts it down to silence as much. Tries to make your silent moments as quiet as possible. And I'm sure that's the only reason why it was tolerable last night on the show, because I had that thing turned up most of the night, because I had my air conditioning running the whole time. And it really roars, even with this headset mic. So,
well, Scott wants to know if there's an easy way to monitor live audio over a headset without delay.
No, not easy. You have to use, with no delay, you have to use the ASIO inputs. You have to get that ASIO virtual audio cable thing. And then you have available to you these ASIO hi-fi audio cable thing. Hi-fi audio cable will allow really, really fast signals. Now, but the thing is, the amount of delay, if you're just doing a live show and doesn't involve your mic, like the only thing I wouldn't monitor my own mic, my headset mic, because there's no need. I can hear myself just fine through my head, you know. But the amount of delay for the show, if you got live mics up or bringing in webcam mics or something, if you got mics into the show, the amount of delay is so negligible that it shouldn't matter. However, and like say it was some shows, like I remember there were some shows going on. With people recording some shows that they were saying that the guitarists and stuff were monitoring through their headphones and listening to the broadcast, and that the delay was maddening, right? Well, the ASIO would get rid of that if they were actually using that kind of thing, and if they were bringing the sound in through a mixing board, they most likely were using an ASIO USB device as an interface to get it into the computer. In that case, they could probably eliminate the latency altogether. But I myself cannot even fathom any reason why they would be listening to the computer's output in the band. I can't even imagine any scenario where that would be practical or necessary for them to be able to hear what's going on in there, unless they were doing dialogue with the audience. And even then, they wouldn't be needing to monitor their own microphone while they're talking. Because what was driving them crazy was the delay while they were playing. You would monitor right off of the mixing board into a headphone amplifier set that split the signal going out to monitor headphones. You would never do that out of the computer. You would do that out of a mixer, or you wouldn't do it at all. You'd be hearing your amplifiers. You'd be hearing your stage presence right there on stage, and wouldn't be bothered with the whole notion of latency and stuff. I just can't even ever imagine a reason to be concerned about that. If you're multi-track recording, the reason why the ASIO became popular was because, in fact, let me stop sharing. The reason the ASIO became popular was because people got sick of the delay when they were multi-tracking. They wanted to be able to hear the recording and play along with themselves and not hear any delay, because now they are monitoring from the computer. Okay, they're not just monitoring from a mixing board. They're hearing the computer signal coming back. Most of the better USB interface, heck, even the Focusrite 2 i2 has a hardware monitor switch on it, so you have no latency at all to hear yourself. So you're listening to the recording coming through your headphones of your last track that you laid down, and now you're going to play along. But you flip the switch and you hear yourself with no latency at all. But if you're using the recorder's monitoring capability, then you were pestered with the latency. By using that ASIO, the latency goes down to so negligible, it's barely noticeable. And you can get it down. On mine, I typically keep it down around 5 milliseconds. Under 10, it's already pretty much unnoticeable. And under 10 milliseconds. You get over that, it becomes noticeable. I cannot tolerate 20 milliseconds. That's just way too long, especially for playing keyboards. 5 milliseconds is my comfort zone, really, for playing keyboards, because I need to, if I hit, I want to hear that immediacy of hitting the note and how hard I hit it, So, so around 5 milliseconds is very comfortable for me, but a lot of people are perfectly happy with 8, 10. Different machines, though, different computers and different USB interfaces are going to have different capabilities, even with ASIO, in terms of how low you can go without it starting to give you noise, breaking down. In other words, you start getting kind of a little ticking, little ticks. They call them overruns, and it's like a buffer. Like, remember, I used to turn so many CDs into coasters before they buffered enough that they didn't run out of data while they were burning. Well, it was a buffer underrun. Similarly, you're getting a problem that's in the same vein. If you turn down the latency too far, trying to push your system to give you as little latency as possible, well, now it doesn't get enough signal in time to send it back out to you, and you start hearing little ticks in the signal chain, and they get into your recording too. So you try to avoid that like the plague. The ticks are because it's running out of data and then catching up. Computer can't work fast enough to deliver that quick. But and even with a quad core, I can only get down to that 5. I can't go much lower. People can get down to 2 on like an i7 and nicer machines, faster machines. Faster your processor, the lower you can go. I got a quad core, runs at 28. 2.8 gigahertz, and it can keep up with 5 and run my DAW and my digital audio workstation and all that stuff at the same time. So, oh, okay. Oh, look, your screen is frozen up. I thought you were just being really attentive. Golly. Well, good, as long as the recording's going out. Gee, too bad you can't change your webcam and come back again to another webcam and have it on freeze. Maybe that would work, actually. I wonder. Yeah, the freezing on Google Hangouts issue is perennial or perpetual. All right, so, but there's no one here to answer questions of, so I'm just going to run down that little list of things to do, and I guess we'll get out of here because no one's coming on board. So let me do a screen share of an entire screen. There we go. And there he is, frozen. I really thought you were listening carefully. And all right, let's go to. So your first stop is not here. It's over here at the Voicemeeter page. Okay, and so you install the Voicemeeter thing, and it's interestingly, it didn't even need me to be in administrator mode, whereas the other cables do need to be in administrator mode. So you download it, click download now, go get it, and you run it. You unzip it and do it to it. Okay. Go get the manual too, which is a little bit further down. Oh, I just download a second copy. Down here. Okay, so here's the download, another download link for it, 1027, and there's the user manual. So right click on that and save link as, and get that and keep that around. Okay. Do the installation, set it up the way you see it here. Well, you don't have the cable yet, so that's next. Go to the bottom, click on virtual audio cable A and B. You can get 2 of these, the A and there's the B. Okay, they work independently of each other. And plus you have the regular virtual audio cable, so it looks like you can have maybe up to 3 total. And notice it covers MME, which is the original Windows 98 audio format, KS, which is the new since Windows 7, and WD is also new, and DX, KS, it hasn't mentioned again. I think you meant to put WDM here. And Wasapi interfaces. It covers all of these different interfaces. They're just different formats of putting out the sound. And MME and WDM, they all have pretty high latency. KS is a lower latency new thing, and Wasapi is very low latency, very similar to KS. You can use those, use them, and but then the ASIO is the final, crowning achievement, where it's the fastest. So you go and you get yourself the cables, you get yourself the manual, and let's see. I thought I saw the manual downloading here. Oh, it's further down. Then there's the VB Audio Hi-Fi cable. This allows you to hook up into your ASIO bridge, and so you get that. And you see, I have all of these now installed. Okay, and it's donationware, and it's worth to donate and support these people. It's definitely. I mean, this fellow, our friend in France who's programmed this thing. He's a professional who programs really, really high-end stuff, and he's given this to us as donationware, which is really, really super, because it lets people try it out, and if it's right for them, they can make a donation. I definitely say at least, anywhere from $12 to $25 you should give them for the ASIO Voicemeeter. And for these others, very similar, I'd give at least $10, $12 or more for any of these others. I see I got Andrew's motion again. And here's the documentation for the BB cable manual, and so download that too. Click on it and get it. And there are some VB cable videos in here that show some different ways of using the audio cable, but I'm about to add to this list. I already got a video on his other page for the Voicemeeter, and here he shows outputting it through the audio cable into some testing analysis stuff that he has written. But again, that's ASIO bridge, hi-fi cable, ASIO bridge. That's all down in here, donationware. Yep, glad to see it. Yeah, I can. How'd you get back? Did you turn off your camera and turn it back on again? Oh, you can't hear me, huh? Oh no, Andrew can't hear me. So I just texted you, Andrew, that I can hear you, but you cannot hear me. Anyway, so again, the steps are install at least this. Well, get back to here.
Well, actually, I turned off the C920 and went to the 525. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, good.
No, I can hear you.
You can, good. All right. I wonder how much delay you're experiencing. Do you hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, good. All right, good. So get the virtual. If you're going to do this setup that you want to hear the HOA and monitor that, but not send its signal out to the broadcast again, so that you're keeping your virtual inputs separate, where you can play system sounds and stuff, but you're still able to monitor the HOA, because by not sending it to system sounds, then you need this cable. You install it, and it will show up in your playback devices and record devices as cable A input. Okay, you don't have to do anything. Just leave it. You do have to make Voicemeeter input the default. Right-click on it and make it default. Okay, so say set as default device. So you do that to Voicemeeter input. You do the same thing to the Voicemeeter output, because that's how it gets the system sounds in there. So again, click on set as default device, and I would set it as default communications device also. Okay, and these guys just have to sit in there to be available to Voicemeeter as inputs and outputs. Okay? And not only to them, but also to your Hangout. So now that you've got the cable A output installed, and you can see it right away upon installing. That's when you go up to the gear and you pick the cable A as the output instead of your headset. Okay, so I did have the headset. I picked cable A. But notice since I installed these others, I now have the hi-fi cable, which is even lower latency, and for my Hangout. But for the Hangout, what do I need low latency for? I don't. I don't need low latency because it's only a few milliseconds, 20 milliseconds. It's not like I have to, hear it exactly when it comes in. As long as it lip syncs, I'm happy. So remember, latency is more about your signals that you're sending out and whether you're getting feedback from your own signals in a timely manner. And you want as little delay for your own signals as possible. The external world signals aren't as important. The amount of latency just built into a Hangout is so enormous you could never play along music with somebody anyway, because just the system's latency and getting stuff through the internet and back to you, that's more down there to beyond ping's time. What was our ping? You were getting around 20 milliseconds for ping. I get around 34 for ping. That's the fastest a signal can go out to the server and back again. And then there's the processing at Google server of the audio and the turning it into a stream and all. So the latency is really pretty huge. It's not noticeable by people participating in the Hangout because as long as the lip syncs with the video that they're getting, it feels like everything's right. They're actually getting in half a second or even a second late. Okay? And the responses aren't immediate. But we don't really notice the responses aren't immediate. As long as somebody laughs, that's what we say. It looks like they laughed right away when they said it, even though it might be a half second late.
Yeah.
But playing music together, that ain't going to happen. So, we fooled around with that world of doing it. We would all need to have fiber with where we could get down there in those 5 millisecond latencies.
Well, the only music that would work with it would be Bolero, because it just repeats and repeats.
Or, well, actually, you could get away with doing really slow ambient music that does not have a drum beat. Yeah. There, your entrance into the chord base is not that important. So somebody could be playing the chord changes very slow on a synthesizer, and you could be playing a lead over the top, and that would work out, where it wouldn't be noticeable that you were, a second behind the lead, but it actually, yeah, well, I mean, in fact, that's worth a try. I'd like to find somebody who would be willing to try that out and do a jam session in an ambient format, because that could be make for a really cool live show to have musicians actually playing together in the film strip, and have guests watching. But for ambient stuff and stuff that's not rhythm dependent, that's very possible. But once you get into rhythm dependence, forget about it. All right. So as I showed though, I set that cable A as the output as my speaker so that I can bring it into the Voicemeeter and only monitor it and not send it out to the broadcast. So only auditing, not broadcasting the Hangout. Got it? That's the big secret sauce. I broadcast but don't audit my headset so I don't hear my voice delayed. I audit but don't broadcast the Hangout so I can hear what people are saying in the Hangout. But I audit and broadcast my system sounds so I can hear what my system sounds are, auditing, and broadcast them out to the audience so they can hear my crazy special effects. Cool beans or what? It's the Voicemeeter by itself can't do this trick where you're hearing the HOA but not rebroadcasting it. Okay, and it's really only, and it could work for a Skype call, I suppose, but not with system sounds. You can monitor the Skype call, but if you need to also send out the system sounds, and it becomes this, you need this extra step. So anyhow, it's an awesome program considering it's donationware, and you can give them whatever you think it's worth after you've used it for a while. And there's nothing crippled in it. Everything works, and it has all these great features. So, so that's my recap of what Michael and I discovered last night after yesterday's show. That I think just amplifies the usefulness of this thing for people that do HOAs just incredibly. Just adding that cable A output and shunting the Hangout audio through that so I can monitor it and not rebroadcast it. Bingo. That was the secret. And now we can integrate all kinds of sounds, videos, audio, all kinds of stuff that we want to bring in. And we get a fader for it and everything. Plus, don't forget, you can use the faders in your apps, like Windows Media Player's fader works. So you can use that. You know, we do only have the one fader for all system sounds. So if you've got multiple system sounds, system sound makers, like a YouTube video, you can basically turn that up to its max and through the YouTube player, or it can manipulate its volume. Windows Media Player, VLC, FooBar players, media players, they all have volume controls. iTunes, and most DVD player type systems have those. One thing kind of cool about this is that he claims that if you bring in 5.1 audio from a DVD, all 5 of the signals will show up in here, and you can then use this mix down button to mix down a stereo version for broadcast. It would use the second mix down button. Let me show where I mean.
Okay, you do know that. There you go. I started saying you didn't have your screen share on.
Yeah. Oh, you just suddenly started distorting like that. Why? Anyway, you can hear me clearly, right?
Yeah, but you seem to be breaking up now.
Yeah, it just suddenly started doing that. I wonder what I did that started that happening. Messed something up. Probably because I was fooling around in my settings. I shouldn't have been in here at all. Let's go to the studio and see if that fixes it and go back to voice. Sometimes that'll fix stuff. Here, is that any better? Did it fix? Guess not. Okay, well, I broke something. Good time to get off the show.
Yeah.
This actually kind of underscores the importance of making sure all these settings are the same bit rate in here. It's probably in here that I messed it up when I was clicking around in here. But making sure all of these are set in the same properties when you go to advanced. They're all 44.1. All right, well, let's end the show since I've gone and broken the audio.
Okay, I'll stop the broadcast. If anybody wants to come into the film strip to ask any questions after we stop the broadcast, just post in the events comments and I'll issue an invite. We will see you people next week with another demonstration, but we don't know what yet. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.